Hello and welcome back to my RC channel. I'm AndyRC and today I'm going to be taking a look at the Flywoo LR4. If you didn't already know, then this is a lightweight 3-4S 4-inch long-range freestyle quad originally designed by Dave C FPV and adapted by Flywoo. I've had this one for a month or so now because I received it after everyone was hyping it up, so I thought I might as well spend longer testing it. I've already unboxed this guy as well as tested Flywoo's ready-built naked GoPro Hero 7, so I'll add a link to those in the below. Today I'm going to be concentrating purely on the model. First off, it doesn't look or feel like a 4-inch model, it's more of a micro with 4-inch propellers. This is the DJI Cadex Vista Bind and Fly version, but it's available with Crossfire and Analogue. Its dry weight is 165 grams and 265 grams with an 850 mAh 4S LiPo, or 294 grams including the naked GoPro. So, if getting under 250 grams is important to you, then the Analogue version is a better option. However, the VTX only goes up to 450 milliwatts with the Analogue version, whereas the Vista can do 1.2 watts, so it's better for long range. The frame is a dead cat configuration, meaning that you get the props out of shot of the FPV camera. However, this leaves the front arms vulnerable to getting hit and breaking. They do give you a spare arm in the package, but this isn't really a model to be pushing around bandos, so if you want to do that, be aware that you may break an arm, but they are all replaceable. You're given a foam battery mat and battery strap. I would have preferred a silicone mat to stop your battery from throwing in a crash. However, after around 100 flights or so, it's never slung a battery. There are some nice functional TPU parts for camera protection, as well as a mount for the GPS buzzer and antennas. I really like how they have spread the components out across the frame to help the center of gravity and tuning. The motors are Flywoo branded Dave C FPV 1404 2750 kV with Gemfan 4024 props, and the stack is also Flywoo branded, consisting of a 16x16 15 amp BL Heli S 4-in-1 ESC and an F4 flight controller. Mine came with a cable attached to it so that you can power up a naked GoPro. The Betaflight setup is superb. It came flash with version 4.2, and I only made some minor changes such as turning off motor stop, adding my own modes, and some GPS functions which I'll address later. And the Vista was already registered, but it needed the latest DJI update. Now this might seem like a small thing, but I am so impressed how they have managed to use a proper camera mounting system for the Vista. It's really quite hard to find the space to mount proper side plates, but these are metal and you get zero jello in the video feed, even in the toughest of conditions, and I have a feeling that it's one of the things that's going to make this model stand out above the rest. And of course we have the buzzer underneath, which acts as a normal buzzer when the LiPo is connected, but it will beep for 5 hours on its own once the LiPo is disconnected. So my advice is not to work on this thing at 2 in the morning because I always forget to long press the button on the buzzer to stop it from doing that once the LiPo is disconnected. Of course, the buzzer has got its own battery which charges when the main LiPo is connected. My favourite battery is an 850 mAh 4S, which will give you an 8 to 11 minute flight time. Flywoo did send me a 1300 mAh 4S tattoo LiPo, which gave a 16-minute flight time, but there wasn't as much power to do freestyle with that. Alrighty, let's go for a line of sight flight with the Flywoo LR4. We've gone straight into acro mode here, and it's really just to show you what it sounds like, or should I say what it doesn't sound like, because it's quiet, this one. You do get more of a drone sound from those bi-blade props, but it does acro nicely. It's got a really good tune on it, this one, you know, which is interesting because the sliders in Betaflight give a warning to say that the PIDs are at strange values, but well, I've had that before and the motors don't get warm and it's fine. Sometimes the model just needs that kind of tune. So let's give you full throttle. It's not going to have loads of power, this one, of course. Economy is what it's for. So that's full throttle. But it's no slouch, you know, with that lightweight naked GoPro on the top. It's got enough power to do any kind of maneuver you want, and it can get out of it as well. So I can do nice low rolls if I want and not have to worry that it's not going to have enough power to recover, because it's got loads of power. Let's do a bit of a run. So that was full power there, and then back that way. It's funny, you know, because it's a 4-inch, but it really has got the footprint of a micro. Feels like a 3-inch toothpick kind of size. So nimble. Really great for practicing your line of sight, even though it's not really what it's for, but you can do that. The hype is real, I'm afraid to say, and I say I'm afraid to say because, well, let's face it, they aren't the cheapest of things, are they? But I'm a believer of, you know, putting your money in the best place possible, and I think this is one of those products. Yeah, absolutely love it. Hard to fault. Very delicate though, so remember that. I've already shown me breaking the naked GoPro because I'm heavy-handed, and I'm sure a lot of people are as well. But yeah, this thing is superb. Let's get it in close. I'd say for a thumbnail, but it's a little bit dull today. There's no wind, but it's a little bit dull. I love it. Proper freestyle and long range. Who'd have thunk it? I just can't help myself. You know, the dead cat configuration really helps with orientation as well. Very nice loops. I'm getting carried away. Okay, let's try angle mode. Not that anyone's going to really use angle mode with this. Just to make sure there's no drifting. Did you see my control there? It's just drifting with the wind. I knocked it there. It's quite sensitive, this DJI transmitter. So if it was drifting, it would drift in a different direction. So I'm just basically looking for noise there on the flight controller, but no problems.
So my conclusion is that the hype is real with this model. I'm always skeptical when something's been given so much praise, especially when it comes from a source that always does that. But there's only two things to be concerned about when it comes to this product. The first one is availability. I think the demand has overwhelmed Flywoo, and some people have been waiting up to a month for theirs to arrive. And it wouldn't be the first time that's happened either. When Rapid Fire first came out, I think I waited 3 months for mine, and a similar thing happened with the Tango 2 as well as the Cadex Vista, which is actually the cause of the delay with this package, trying to source those. So I would say to those of you who are waiting that it's definitely worth the wait, and if you're struggling to get a response from customer support, then try Flywoo's Facebook page, because that's where many people who approached me for help received a response. The second concern is regarding the on-screen display. Some people were reporting lockups or flickering, which I didn't experience myself. And people were approaching me for a copy of my CLI, but it turns out that the issue is in Betaflight itself and not with the components. So you can download the latest Betaflight settings from Flywoo's website and it will fix the problems that you're having. And it's not because they are using a soft serial on the flight controller. And those are really the only things to consider. When I did the unboxing, I had some personal concerns, such as, will you actually be able to fly freestyle with it? And the answer is an easy yes. The tune is fantastic for freestyle on 4S with no bounce back. And there's plenty of power despite it being set up for long range. In fact, it's superb for following planes because not only can it keep up with them, but it can fly as long as a plane can. So I don't have to keep landing every 3 minutes like I do with most 5-inch freestyle quads. So a lot of the recent follow footage you've seen on the channel was done with the LR4 and Flywoo's naked GoPro. And with an 850mAh 4S, you can still get a 9-minute flight time, giving it death, or 11 minutes cruising. And I must have done over 100 flights now on 4S, so there's no issues overstressing the ESC either. I'm yet to try a Li-ion battery, which will apparently give you a 30-minute flight time, but I think I'd rather use an 850mAh 4S and get 8 or 9 minutes of freestyle rather than 30 minutes of cruising. But I suppose it's good to have both options, making it a very versatile aircraft. I do want to stress though that the fact it has GPS does not mean you can fly it carefree like a DJI Mavic. The GPS functionality in Betaflight is still very much experimental, and it's only to be used by someone with experience. It comes with GPS rescue set as the failsafe, but I found it much safer to turn that off and just have it to drop when the model failsafes. Simply because if you lose video and GPS rescue goes wrong, then you'll have no idea where the model has flown to unless the GPS coordinates on the screen are correct, which I found they often weren't when GPS rescue didn't work. And if you have the DJI HD version, then the minute you disconnect your goggles, you lose that GPS coordinate anyway, and it doesn't record it to the DVR. Whereas if you set the failsafe to drop, you at least have an idea where the model might have landed. So I just had GPS rescue on an auxiliary switch, but I only really used it to test that it worked, and sometimes it didn't. It can also take up to 10 minutes to get more than 5 satellites, and Flywoo have it set so that you can take off before it's received a satellite fix, in which case it won't record the correct home point. So I really only use GPS for its data to tell me how far away I was, which is a useful thing to have, but you still have to be smart when it comes to how far away you want to fly. And to get a proper return to home working, you would need a compass, which the flight controller doesn't have, and iNav rather than Betaflight, which would compromise the freestyle performance but give you a better GPS performance. And if you don't agree with me when it comes to GPS, then that's fair enough, but I would argue that Flywoo installing a standalone lost model alarm that works when the battery has disconnected is evidence that someone has had the same experience as me with GPS rescue. And I also don't want people new to the hobby piling a load of money into this thing thinking that it's a get out of jail free card, because it isn't. Now, because of the availability issue with Flywoo, I know I'm going to get asked about iFlight's version and GapRC's version. So at a glance, iFlight's version is using an X-type frame rather than the dead cat style, which will make it better in a crash, but it will mean that the props are in shot of the FPV camera. They do sell separately a dead cat bottom plate for it if you want to convert it. I also really like how the components are spread out across the frame, the same as the Flywoo. However, it doesn't come with an independent lost model alarm, and the motors are a higher kV at 3000, which may affect the flight time. GapRC aren't sending me their version as far as I know, but looking at the specs, it does have an independent buzzer and the same kV motors as the Flywoo LR4. They've gone for a sort of stretched out dead cat frame with all of the components on top of each other, which I'm not a fan of for balance, and especially on this type of frame, it might make tuning a challenge. Something I'd be looking at with both iFlight and GapRC offerings is the fact that they have mounted the DJI camera in TPU, which, if done incorrectly, can produce jello. And as I say, it's something that Flywoo has absolutely nailed with their metal camera mount.
And the fact that they've collaborated with Dave C. FPV means that the tune has been really well worked on. So that's something I'd be looking for with the other offerings as well. So there you go. That's my review of the Flywoo LR4. It's definitely cemented itself into my top 2020 setup, and it goes everywhere with me. I'll put a link in the video description as well as a pinned comment if you wish to get one. And as always, thanks so much for watching. Please continue to subscribe. Cheers.